I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is Friday, January 10th. We have one half of the College Football National Championship in the books, semifinal in the books as Notre Dame topped Penn State last night. Dennis is ready for part two tonight, a great entree into playoff NFL football, where we have Ohio State and Texas. I can't tell who you're rooting for.
I'm trying to be subtle about it, you know.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a fun one to watch. National championship game is a week from Monday, the 20th, which is great. Another 3-day weekend of football next weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
I getting dressed this morning. It's laundry day tomorrow, and I had 2 pair of underwear left, and one of them had orange on it, so I didn't wear those. That's how dedicated I am.
It's because you think you didn't have any accidents either, else you'd have been forced into it.
I'd have gone commando.
There you go.
I'm going to wear those orange things. Not today.
Speaking of things you don't want, also that sometimes wear orange, Deshaun Watson, for his skills, and then again in rehab, is now expected to miss all of the 2025 season. What do you make of this Deshaun Watson situation?
Where's Tanya Harding? That's what I want to know. I don't know. You know, I don't think it's a wink, wink, you've re-injured it situation. I think he legitimately re-injured it, whether it was something careless on his part or something. I don't know, you know, but I don't think he ever plays another snap for the Browns. I'm not sure he plays another snap. I mean, he's got a ton of money. It's not like we're taking it away from him if he just goes home and doesn't come back. You know, he could pull a Tom from MySpace and just be like, peace out.
I don't know if they're obligated to pay it all out if he retires.
No, I don't think he'll retire. No, I just think he doesn't play again. You know, and they're like, yeah, you can just stay away.
Well, it kind of puts them, you know, a lot of people were going back and forth about whether they thought the Browns were going to take a quarterback there, the number 2 overall pick. I know you already thought they should. I think they've got to for sure now.
Theoretically, yes. However, are the quarterbacks that are there good enough? You know, it's Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. There's questions about Sanders' arm strength. You know, Cam Ward moved around a lot. Yeah, he spent a lot of time in college, and they both are they the best quarterbacks in this class? Yes. Are they worthy of the 1 and 2 pick? Probably not. But you got to do something. I don't know if the Browns will have guts enough to pass. I don't know if Kevin Stefanski feels like he's got that kind of job security, because theoretically they'll be better next year and won't have the number 2 overall pick. So even if next year's class is better, there's a chance they're picking at 8, 9, 10, 11. And are you going to be able to get a quarterback there? Are there going to be quarterbacks out on the free agent market? The argument's being made that they're good enough that a veteran quarterback could get them, into the playoffs. I don't know if I'm buying that yet. Got to do a little more looking at it, but I don't know. They probably
won 3 games, so
they probably should take a quarterback at 2, Sanders or Ward, whichever one is still there. But whether they do or not, that's who knows. Maybe they might go rogue and draft offensive linemen.
Well, there'll be plenty to keep an eye on as we go through the off season. We're going to turn our attention to 6 playoff games that are going to be played over the course of 3 days. Starts with 2 games tomorrow. None of these teams are going to be picking high enough to get a quarterback, but some of them were last draft, and that has paid off for them. In the first matchup, it is the
I saw that big smile when you said that.
It is the Los Angeles Chargers, who finished 11-6 at the 10-7 Houston Texans. Kind of an interesting matchup. The Texans did not have the greatest end to the regular season. The Chargers kind of finished hard. And then I don't know if you saw, but they were the ones that actually ended up signing Ezekiel Elliott to their practice squad. It looks like Gus Edwards is going to be ready to go. J.K. Dobbins, I think, is still listed as questionable, but they are expecting that he's going to be able to play. What do you think we're going to see from this Chargers ground game?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Elliott. Haskins, Vidal, and Edwards, Dobbins, their committee backing it to see who is going to provide what they need. Can they give them pass catching when they need it? Can they get them a tough yard when they need it? Can they, can one of them rush for 60 yards? I think amongst them, probably, they don't have Joshua Palmer, and that does weaken the receiving core a little bit. I know it's easy to get super excited after the game that Quentin Johnston had last week, but I'm not sure he can do that 2 weeks in a row. Ladd McConkey, I think, is a bona fide stud. They did activate Semi Fehoko, who probably he's probably their wide receiver 4. So he'll get, and they got DJ Chark. So Fajoko's probably their 5. Chark will move up to 3, Fehoko to 4 with Palmer out. But I think we've seen that this team runs through Justin Herbert, even when they're running the ball. So I think it'll be a game where they run enough to keep the Houston defense honest, but if they win it, they're going to win it through the air.
Yeah, and Quentin Johnson has been out of practice some with an illness, but he is good to go, so we will see him tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Texans, they did not look good in those 2 kind of specialty primetime games, the Saturday before Christmas and then Christmas Day. I don't think it's too much to call it a massacre. Yeah. They had a pretty solid opening drive against Tennessee and then pulled some guys out. What are you expecting from this offense against a pretty good Chargers defense?
Well, they're going to need Nico Collins to do his thing. They need that connection between him and CJ Stroud to fire back up. He's their alpha. John Mechie's been playing serviceably. Xavier Hutchinson's had a catch here and there. Robert Woods. DeMeco Ryans has been talking up Deontay Johnson, getting more involved. I'm not sure how much more involved he's going to be. But really, the Texans have been playing well with Mixon and Dameon Pierce on the ground. Now, Mixon is super inefficient, but he eats up clock and he gets tough yards. We saw the big run last week from Pierce. Both teams are pretty evenly matched on both sides of the ball. If I remember correctly, on offense, Houston's got the 15th ranked rushing offense. Chargers have the 17th ranked. Houston has the 21st ranked passing offense. The Chargers have the 19th ranked passing offense. On defense, it's pretty similar. Houston has the 6th ranked passing offense, and the Chargers have the 7th. Houston has the 11th ranked rushing or defense. 11th ranked defense, and the Chargers have the 14th ranked defense. So on both sides of the ball, it's like almost like they're playing themselves. So what are they going to? While it's wild that the Chargers are road favorites, I guess I believe in DeMeco Ryans, or maybe I just hate Jim Harbaugh. But I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go Texans. I think they're going to do just enough.
I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think they've just got a little bit of a better overall team. Houston has been real beat up, but this one, it could be a close game. I don't know about you. I'm not thinking it's going to be a very high scoring game.
I don't either. This feels, like 21-17, 24-20, 23-24, it feels like a game that could have several field goals too.
The other Saturday game is the one that's exclusive to Amazon Prime, the 10-7 Pittsburgh Steelers, the 6th seed at the 12-5 Baltimore Ravens. The Steelers ended on a 4-game losing streak, including a big loss to the Ravens on that Saturday before Christmas. They barely won the first matchup with the Ravens. Technically, these teams split, but Pittsburgh ended kind of in a funk. What do they need to do to turn it around here?
Baltimore was pretty porous versus the pass early in the season, but they got better and better as the season went on.
Good thing that's like Pittsburgh's specialty. I mean, Kenny Pickett,
right. It's
George Pickens coming in on fire.
Yeah, it's gonna. Honestly, I think the spread in this game is 8.5. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's close enough. I don't know. Baltimore is just playing well. Their offense is playing well. I like the mix that Baltimore has, even without Zay Flowers. They're going to be without him. But Rashad Bateman, Bateman's probably going to get lots of Joey Porter. To me, it feels like it's going to open up the game for Isaiah Likely, for Nelson Aguilar, for Justice Hill. So it's going to be these additional guys that can do some stuff. And, Lamar does Lamar things. He's going to avoid pressure. He's going to run around. He's going to put the team on his back. Pittsburgh eked out a 2-point win on the back of 6 Chris Boswell field goals. And then Pittsburgh held I think I wrote this backwards, saying, no, Pittsburgh held Baltimore to their lowest yardage, I think, on the season in week 7. But Pittsburgh on offense, they put up just 193 yards versus an awful Cincinnati defense in week 18. I don't know. It feels really, really – it feels like if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm hoping that we just play over our head. Pittsburgh, the Ravens have the 7th most passing yards in the NFL and the 2nd most touchdown passes. I know they're going up against TJ Watt and, not Herbig. Who's that other? They got another rush guy that puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Porter is great.
Hayward.
Yeah. Porter's great. I just feel like the Steelers, as good as their reputation is, it's kind of made off they get a bunch of sacks. The Steelers have given up the 8th most passing yards in the NFL, and you've got a quarterback in Lamar Jackson that's playing above his 2023 MVP level. I'm in on the Ravens. I'm not betting on this game, but I would not be surprised if the Ravens cover the spread comfortably.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Ravens too. They were one of the hotter teams coming into the playoffs. I think that's why the Chargers were trying so hard to get out of the number 6 slot. not an ideal matchup for the Steelers, a team that's kind of faded down the stretch. So this is another game. I think the Ravens will get in the 20s, but maybe the low 20s. But I don't think either of these games is going to be particularly explosive on the offense. The Sunday morning games start with the 10-7 Denver Broncos, the 7th seed in the AFC at the 13-4 Buffalo Bills. Denver kind of a nice story and turnaround, but Buffalo had a heck of a season. The only team to beat Kansas City at full strength during the regular season. They are the number 2 seed for a reason. What are you expecting here?
So we've seen the Bills put up a lot of points against teams that were supposed to be pretty good. Example number 1, Detroit Lions. Denver leads the league in sacks, but Allen was the 35th quarterback in being sacked. So, there were 3 backup quarterbacks, 2 backup quarterbacks, 3 backup quarterbacks that got sacked more than Josh Allen did, who started 17 games. We'll give him 16. He only played 1 snap in the last week. I think the Broncos can, they've got a puncher's chance. One of the things that Denver's susceptible to is a player like Cortland Sutton and what he brings to the table. So if they can get downfield action working, I think I heard on the radio today that Bo Nix has something like that was talking about the Buckeyes, not Bo Nix. So never disregard that. Sorry, I hear a lot of stuff. It's just one of those things where I think Denver is going to put pressure on Allen because that's what they do. And with Perry Moss and who's the other cornerback? Right at the tip of my tongue.
For Denver?
Yeah.
It's Pat Surtain and Riley Moss.
They're going to be able to cover, I think, the Buffalo receivers pretty well. But Buffalo's got James Cook, who in Denver gives up a decent amount of receptions to running backs. They've got Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox at the tight end position. I think it's going to be a good game. If I remember correctly, this one again is an 8.5 point spread. And if I'm going to bet on one team to cover the spread, whether it's Pittsburgh or Denver, I'm taking Denver. I think Denver can make it competitive. They've got a good defense. Nix has to keep his cool. He started all season. He's played really, really well. He's been in the run-in for the Rookie of the Year. Cortland Sutton has stepped up. I think what's really going to be the downfall for Denver is that they don't have an established running game.
Yeah, and I think for Denver to win, they'd have to play a pretty much a perfect game on defense. It's interesting. Both these teams, I would say, have enigmatic wide receiver cores where they have one guy that's pretty reliable and a few other guys that you could get a lot or you could get nothing. And it's going to be interesting to see which receiving group is able to make a couple plays and pop off to complement. But you're right. The biggest concern that I would have for Denver is there isn't a lot of consistency and often not a lot of production in the running game. And that is much better for Buffalo, not just with James Cook, but we've seen Ray Davis do well when he's come in. We've seen Ty Johnson be a factor when he's come in. And we also see Josh Allen is probably one of their best running backs. So that's going to be tough.
Denver would need to get a running game out of nowhere to be able to eat clock and keep the ball away from Buffalo to win it. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that. We've seen guys come out of nowhere and put up some numbers, but I just don't know. I'm as much as I want to take Denver, I'm going to have to take the Bills.
I took the Bills too. So the middle game on Sunday is an intriguing one because teams are a little bit banged up. The Green Bay Packers, 11-6, slid to the 7th seed, are at the 2nd seeded Philadelphia Eagles, who finished 14-3. questions, at the quarterback. It looks like Jordan Love is off the injury report for Green Bay, so he should be good to go. And for Philadelphia, it looks like it is trending toward, I do not see Jalen Hurts on the injury report anymore, so it looks like he has been cleared. And we'll start. This is a rematch of the Week 1 game that was in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Eagles won that game. That was kind of a thrilling game. Big coming out party for Saquon Barkley, who had 3 touchdowns, was a huge part of it. The man went for more than 2,000 rush yards this season. I would expect he's going to be a big part of it again. Dennis, what are you expecting from these two teams with some banged up players?
So if Green Bay wants to win, they are going to need to keep the ball away from Philadelphia. With Barkley and Hurts, Philadelphia can grind the clock and then take big shots with Brown and Devonta Smith. Smith is off the injury report as well. So they've got Philadelphia one of the better offensive lines in the league. Their defense is opportunistic. Quinyon Mitchell is shored up the defensive backfield. Green Bay is going to have to figure out how to keep the ball away from Saquon Barkley because that's what will run that clock down. But the Packers have the 26th ranked rushing defense. It just feels like this is going to be a huge Saquon Barkley game, and he's going to be able to run the ball. I don't know. At will seems like a very, very strong statement, but I think Barkley's going to want to go out and show people that, yeah, I would have got the 100 yards last week if I played. And so I think he's looking to go out there and put up a big game. On the Eagles side of it, Hurts is good to go. We're going to see him take shots to A.J. Brown. We're going to see him run when he has to. We're going to see some tush pushes, whether it's for first downs or touchdowns. Well, it was crazy. I think we talked about it last show that Saquon Barkley's average length of touchdown was something like 26 and a half yards or something. He didn't have a single 1-yard rushing attempt inside the red zone or at the goal line. It should be a good matchup. Unfortunately for Green Bay, I just don't think they have the horses to compete. I like their wide receivers. If I was going to evaluate like all 32 wide receiver cores and go 5 or 6 deep, I think Green Bay has the strongest. What Green Bay doesn't have is they don't have a top end. They don't have an A.J. Brown. They don't have a Terry McLaurin or a Mike Evans. Do they have somebody that can become that? Maybe. Maybe Watson can if he stays healthy. Hell, maybe Nix can be that guy because they're tired of Watson always being injured. But they've got good guys in Dobbs and Reed and Wicks. Bo Melton will be stepping up in this game. It's going to be something where Green Bay is going to have to eat clock with Josh Jacobs. This feels to me like a 21 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown game for Josh Jacobs. It'll be good, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get him the victory. I'm going to take the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles as well. It's been interesting to me. There's been a lot of talk, and some of the people I've seen really jumping on the Packers saying that they are going to take advantage of a vulnerable Eagles team because Jalen Hurts has been injured. Well, Jordan Love got knocked out last week too. And let's not forget this Packers team, the reason they're playing the Eagles is because they finished the regular season poorly and lost games. It's not like they pulled all their stars against the Bears. They outright lost that game. They lost the game against Minnesota and Detroit. And, I know they've had a tough schedule, but I still like the Eagles to get a win at least this week at home. The Sunday night football matchup. The number 6 seeded Washington Commanders 12-5 at the number 3 seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers 10-7. This is another rematch from week 1. The Buccaneers won at home 37-20. These two are different teams in both aspects. We've seen Jayden Daniels certainly grow as a passer, probably going to end up being rookie of the year. We've seen him grow as a player and as a quarterback, but we've also seen something from this Buccaneers team that we haven't seen from some past Buccaneers team, and that is an explosive running game thanks to Bucky Irving. I think both these teams have changed over the last 16 weeks. How do you see this rematch in the playoffs?
So Jayden Daniels, I agree. The last couple of games, he made highlight plays while putting up great numbers. I think he secured the rookie of the year with those last couple of weeks. But he's 16th in passing yards on the year, but 10th in passing touchdowns. So he's been efficient when it comes to scoring. He's also a good runner. We've seen him put up 60, 70, 80-yard games. Tampa Bay gives up the third most passing yards in the NFL. So this feels like it's going to be Terry McLaurin or, God forbid, Olamide Zaccheaus going nuts. It's been nice watching Terry McLaurin as a Buckeye fan play with competent quarterbacking. He's had some good seasons, but he's never been great because of the lack of quarterbacking there. But this year he's played really, really well. I think he'll be able to keep that up. The Commanders, on the other side, though, they give up the third most rushing yards. So, I would expect Bucky Irving to break the huddle for the first snap on offense with a bib around his neck because he's going to be eaten. He's shown that he's got uncanny vision on the inside. He's very good with lateral. He's like a little bit smaller David Montgomery, maybe a little faster, but he's got great lateral movement on the inside runs. He's got enough speed to get outside, and he's brought some pop to the running game that Rachaad White just couldn't quite get. And he's a competent receiver, so they don't have to take him out on, third and long, second and long, though they still bring White in frequently because White is a superior pass catcher. They just don't have to do it because Bucky Irving has been good enough. I don't know. I think for me, it's sort of the Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield, Bucky Irving show. It just feels like they're going to go out and be keyed on. And I think we're going to end up watching a couple touchdown passes to Jalen McMillan, who has really come on. I can't wait till we get a little deeper into the offseason. We're talking dynasty buys and sells. I think it's going to be some fun stuff. I think it's going to be a really good matchup. We've seen Baker with the ability to put up points, and we've seen Jayden Daniels with the ability to put up points. The spread on this one, according to DraftKings, is it DraftKings I'm looking at? Yeah, is Tampa -3. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd bet the spread. I'd probably take the money line, but I think I'm gonna go with. I think I'll join you with the Buccaneers unless you've changed your mind.
No, I am still taking the Buccaneers. I think one of the fun things to watch will be Mike Evans going against Marshawn Lattimore in the playoffs. Lattimore healthy off the injury report. A lot of people forgot that he got acquired by the Commanders. So
yeah,
we did not get the good old Saints Bucks matchup, but we will get it, which might add even more credence to your Jalen McMillan pick there. One to watch for the Buccaneers, Cade Otton, still limited in practice with a knee injury. I think it makes a big difference if he is available. But this could be a heck of a game. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm with you. I went with the Buccaneers too. They just seem to find a way to win these big games, especially the last couple of years with Baker. The final wild card playoff game is the Monday Night Football game. The number 5 seeded Minnesota Vikings, the first 5th seed wild card with 14 wins. They are 14-3 at the 4th seeded Los Angeles Rams, 10-7. This game was moved to Phoenix, Arizona, to the home of the Arizona Cardinals due to the wildfires in Los Angeles. So, last week was a tough week for Minnesota. Their offense looked really flat as they lost that game, kind of ending the regular season, forcing them on the road. The Rams beat the Vikings earlier this regular season when they played. That was the only team other than the Lions to beat the Vikings during the regular season. So they have that going for them. Can this offense get back on track? And for the Rams, how much does getting displaced and being at home in Phoenix impact them?
The fan base in LA is fickle. It's not as in, they only care about winning. It's like they just always have so much stuff to do. We've seen it for years and years and years. Teams are in and out of LA because they just can't sustain it. The Rams have a decent team. Is it a distraction? Sure. Will they be fine? I think McVay is pretty good at keeping the team focused. Stafford, he's a seasoned veteran. I think Kupp and Nacua are very focused on things. So I'm not overly worried about them having to switch to playing in Arizona. For me, it's going to be like the Rams are susceptible to the run. Their rushing defense is poor. So will Aaron Jones be able to go off? And we've seen even Cam Akers spelling Aaron Jones breaking off big runs. Minnesota is second in rushing defense. That doesn't bode well for Kyren Williams. But over the last couple of years, we've seen Kyren Williams flex up and play really well against teams that are supposed to be good against the run. Again, much like Bucky Irving, he's one of these 200-pounders that has really good interior vision, can see the hole and get through the hole real quick. So I think he'll still have a good game. I just don't think he's going to have a huge game. Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson, and Puka Nacua is Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp is, he's been on a cold streak coming out of the season into the playoffs. For me, my nostalgia for Matt Stafford, the longtime Detroit Lions, to be taken care of his past. He's got his Super Bowl. Time for the Lions to get theirs, but I'm going to go ahead and take the Vikings in this one. I think you're muted.
When those two teams played, it was a little bit earlier in the season. The Vikings hadn't gotten TJ Hawkinson back yet. Jefferson had a pretty good game, but that was a really huge game for Matthew Stafford, where he went for 4 touchdowns, kind of spreading him around. Kupp and Nacua each catching quite a few passes, but Demarcus Robinson getting 2 touchdowns, Kyren Williams getting a touchdown, and they were able to hold Aaron Jones in check, 19 carries, only 58 yards. So I think those are things you're talking about that will be a key. A lot of heat on this Minnesota defense to kind of step up and to play well and to lock down, with their coordinator looking at a lot of head coach openings, would like to have a good showing here in the playoffs. And I think, like what you said, the Rams had shown at times of vulnerability to the run. Can they get Aaron Jones or Cam Akers going? Because last week, actually, Cam Akers had one of the biggest plays for the Vikings in that game against the Lions with that huge run down the field. I think having Hawkinson back makes a difference. And I just think Minnesota was a great team all season. They didn't look their best last Sunday night, but was it that they didn't look their best or they were just playing the best team? Because we've been on the Lions, a lot of people bagging on Minnesota. Lions are 15-2. It's not like they rolled out there and lost at home to the Bears,
right?
And we don't seem to be holding the Packers back for that. So I think it's just, I don't know what Sam Darnold's going to have to do to prove himself. But I think Sam Darnold gets a playoff win. I think Minnesota gets a win. I think it will have taken a emotional toll on the Rams. You can't live in a city and see everything that's going on and not be affected by that. And they were picking up their entire families. They essentially, I thought it was very classy, by the way, of the Arizona Cardinals. They sent two of their planes to pick up all the Rams players, support staff, front office staff, families, pets, and to bring them down. They've turned over their headquarters to the Rams. I thought that was a very classy move by the Cardinals, a division rival. But, I think that's going to definitely have a mental and emotional impact on LA. I hope this is an all-time classic game. I like Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, but I think that Kevin O'Connell gets one over on his former mentor, and the Vikings get a win.
I agree. You want to talk a little coaching carousel?
Yeah, I didn't see any updates other than they've been doing interviews.
So it's more about let's talk a little bit about what you want to see. Like the Bears have requested 14 people for interviews.
Yeah.
That just seems like such an insane amount. Of these, Matt Campbell, Iowa State head coach, Pete Carroll, Brian Flores, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, Mike Kafka, Cliff Kingsbury, Mike McCarthy, that was denied, Todd Monken, Drew Petzing, David Shaw, Arthur Smith, Mike Vrabel, and Anthony Weaver. Do you think the Bears should go offensive or defensive in their next head coach?
I don't really have a strong preference. I think the thing that I'm waiting for is to see what Dallas is actually going to do, because if they are not actually keeping Mike McCarthy, it was pretty petty to block him from taking interviews.
Well, they said they were opening negotiations. Both sides have basically announced they're getting ready to start talking contract.
Yeah, we'll see what actually comes of that. They've had a long time to work on that. I think the biggest thing for me, selfishly, I would like Ben Johnson not to leave Detroit.
I agree.
think it's a great fit there. But if he does go somewhere, I want him to land in a good situation. I don't know if I think Jacksonville or Chicago is a good situation with the GM they have. Jacksonville, I really am not incredibly fond of Trent Baalke, but with Chicago, it's hard to tell. I feel like Ryan Pace has brought in good players. They haven't really seen any kind of results. They built a lot of cap room that allowed them to go make some moves. They have a lot of potential options, but that would have probably been more true going into this season than going into, because I think Keenan Allen's a free agent now. What happens with him? Now you're going to have to spend this year with Chicago doing some repair and rehab with some of the pieces they have and figuring some things out. And their defense didn't end up quite as good as I was expecting. I have a feeling they're going to go offense to find somebody to mentor and pour into Caleb Williams. I'll be curious about Kingsbury because, he had interviewed for the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator position, and everybody was pretty sure they were taking Caleb Williams, and he ended up choosing to go to Washington, where it was pretty likely they were going to end up with Jaden Daniels, and that seems to have worked out. A lot of people have speculated that he was interested in Caleb Williams for a long time, but who's to say? And his Arizona teams were really enigmatic, but now that we've seen 2 seasons with Kyler Murray with him gone, was it all him?
Right. I don't know. The list is, I think Kingsbury gets another shot at some point. I'm not sure about Mike Kafka. He had kind of a bits and pieces to work with this year in New York. Matt Campbell from Iowa State, he's had a good program at Iowa State. Todd Monken seems to be one of the hottest offensive guys right now. And so I I'm
And I've
curious.
heard several Bears fans, including one of my favorite commentators, Mike Wobon, who said anyone but Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh.
The interesting thing for me is like Ben Johnson turned down interviews last year. He's basically, I think, said he turned down Jacksonville, if I remember correctly. Aaron Glenn turned down New England. And it's like
New England's a weird one too, because if they don't end up taking Vrabel, then what are they doing? The Jets are another weird. It's hard for me to get excited about the coaching things right now because they seem like a lot of weird situations, and I think a few of these teams are going to have to iron out what they're doing at GM first. And I know like the Jets are doing a lot of GM interviews, so we'll see that. And the Raiders at first said they were keeping Tom Telesco, and now he's out, and now there's some buzz about whether Tom Brady's going to run their front office. And I'm like, okay, well, if you were thinking about interviewing anywhere, wouldn't you want to have answers to some of these questions? And I think a lot of these coaches are, focused on playoffs too. We'll see which potential hot assistants become available for more interviews following this week. I know in Denver, we've been watching Vance Joseph. I thought he's done an incredible job this year with Denver's defense, and he's getting a few head coaching looks, and see what comes of that.
Yeah, for me, what I want to see, I want to see somebody give Byron Leftwich a shot, make quarterback coach, let him work his way back to offense.
I think he interviewed in New England.
He did but part of why Aaron Glenn declined is that he just felt like it was a Rooney Rule interview. They brought in Pep Hamilton and Byron Leftwich, who've been out of coaching, and they only requested had five candidates come in, and they've completed the four of them that didn't decline. So it feels like Vrabel is going to get that job if he wants it. I don't know. Robert Saleh has interviewed a couple spots, but it almost feels like he's headed back to rehab at San Francisco in the defensive coordinator position. Get his image rehabbed a little bit. It's going to be an interesting process. It feels like I feel like I'm losing Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. So I don't know. I don't know who I'm getting as my coordinators, but I hope Dan Campbell knows what he's doing here.
Well, and you never know. It ended up working out too for Dan Quinn with Dallas. He was a hot name and seemed to be a finalist for some places, and pulled himself back and went back to Dallas for a year and had another good year, and then ended up finding a situation he liked with Washington. And look at where the Commanders, they were the number 2 overall pick last year. Now they won 12 games in the playoffs. They seem to be trending in the right direction. So maybe one of those guys will be able to find a spot.
Yeah, if Aaron Glenn does leave, I wouldn't hate it if Saleh came in as our defensive coordinator. I don't know that him and Campbell have any relationship, but he was a very good coordinator in San Francisco, and we've got some pieces, and we're going to get some more pieces. It would be interesting, I think.
Yep. Well, we'll see if we get any updates or any news over the weekend. We will be back on Tuesday to talk about these 6 playoff games and to cover any news, see if anyone else can manage to re-injure themselves, just, doing TikToks with their family and friends. So until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the next 4 days of games, and good luck to you tonight, Dennis. Hope you enjoy an Ohio State game.
I am going to enjoy an Ohio State game.
That'll do it for us today. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend.